Now, I mentioned Ronnie earlier and just having this incredible journey over the last decade. Yours is no less incredible. In this 11 years since your first performance with Priest, which was May the 25th, 2011, that was on American Idol. What do you remember about that day, right, that you woke up and you found that they were trying to get in touch with you? I mean, obviously, you went through the process of deleting emails because you thought it was cranks getting in touch, trying to get in touch with you, or it was junk email. But what do you remember about the moment?
That's a great question. I mean, it was surreal, really, the situation I was in, and the situation I didn't know at the time what I was about to be in. I mean, it changed my life. It changed my life around. I think I had to borrow the train fare off of my mother to go up to meet Glenn and Rob and go through the quote unquote audition process, So it was just a life changing thing. But I knew I had a chance, if you know what I mean. I wasn't arrogant about it, but I was confident and I knew that I could do this. And I gave it my everything, and I just remember thinking, if this is real, a chance like this doesn't come along twice in a lifetime. So I had to give it my all, and went from there, really. And the rest is a blur. I remember when Glenn gave me the gig, and it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks later that I went back to Glenn's, and he gave me the gig. And but I had to be quiet for about a month until he announced it, so I couldn't tell anyone. So you've got a life-changing
But they must have noticed a change in you after that. I mean, because you must have been walking around with a grin. You must have been feeling literally on top of the world.
Absolutely. It was an opportunity and a big chance. And I knew what that duty meant to millions of people around the world. I knew what Priest meant and means today. I knew what they stand for in heavy metal. So it wasn't just playing guitar in a band. It was flying the flag for Judas Priest. I mean, that's a massive deal. So it was quite intimidating. And as I've said before, it was a challenge. But some challenges you've got to take.
Yeah. I mean, there was the immediate acknowledgement, and Rob said this on many occasions, that you gave everybody this kick up at the backside. You were responsible for the continuation of the band. You infused them immediately with this resurgence of fresh blood and energy. How did hearing all those comments and reading those comments actually make you feel when you saw it? And did it put any more pressure on you?
I think I've always said this. There's 5 guys in the band, and I always see it like a wheel. We're the spokes in that wheel, and we make it go round. And if you take one of those guys out, it doesn't roll. So I mean, I've always been grateful to Rob for saying that, but I don't think he's given himself enough credit either. After 50 years, genre-defining, iconic frontman and heavy metal band. If I came in and gave them a different dynamic and it carried on, then fantastic. But they're all responsible for that as well.
I want to mention Firepower, because you've done Redeemer of Souls, and I think the best review that I read is like Judas Priest woke up one day and remembered how to be the greatest heavy metal band on the planet, and they did, and they are.
That's a brilliant review. That's a very kind review. I mean, when you're writing albums, you always do them to the best of your ability at the time. How can we make it sound better? How can we play better? How can we write better songs, better solos, better vocals, whatever it may be? And Redeemer of Souls and Firepower are no different in that regard. You go from Redeemer to Firepower. How can we make it better? How can we do this one better? Whatever better means, and it really connected with a lot of people around the world. I think we played 9 songs from that record on that tour, which is unheard of, really. We sometimes, I mean, I know on Redeemer we played maybe 3. You play too many new songs and you lose the audience. But on that one, it made such a connection that we could play a lot more songs and people were singing them back to us. It was, for me, it was just an incredible experience.
2 of the songs on there, it's funny, isn't it, what you're drawn to most? Never the Heroes and Spectre. I mean, nobody was expecting either of those songs on that album, and yet those two, well, for me, stood out, and yet they're the perhaps the least heavy metal of all the tracks on that album.
Yeah, you're right. Especially Never the Heroes. It's a bit more of a mid-paced sort of rocker, but it had a really poignant message, and it really lent itself to that experience. And it lined up perfectly. The message of the song, the way the song sounded. We needed a song that was that kind of dynamic for the record, and it was one of those records where everything aligned. Even the season we were at was spring. It was beautiful. We'd go out for walks every morning, me and Andy Sneap. The whole experience was a fantastic one. And I said at the time, I don't think I'll ever make a record that I'd enjoy as much as that experience. It was one that will stick in my mind forever.